Good morning, everyone, and welcome to 21 Minutes with. We've got this morning a very, very awesome guest. From the 3 minutes that I have just gotten all the background information, I can already tell this is going to be a really fun and very, very fast-paced conversation. So buckle up. We've got 21 Minutes with Kevin Keith, unwrapping the sweet side of brand reinvention. Kevin comes to us with a pretty impressive pedigree, if I do say so myself, just looking at all of the incredible brands that you've been able to work with. Edible Arrangements, Orange Theory Fitness, Coca-Cola. I think I saw a UPS back up in there somewhere.
Yeah, went through a whole rebranding globally with UPS. That was fun.
Amazing. And you've seen her before. We love her. And she's always back as an amazing co-host, Cindy Haynes.
Good morning.
So, Kevin, I want to kick us off here, and I've got a couple different questions to lead in. But first off, we always like to open with a fun little icebreaker question.
All right, hit me.
So, we know you've built brands around fitness, tech, and even fruit bouquets. Very nice. I have to ask, if your career were an edible arrangement, what would be in it?
Oh gosh, it would probably be the sampler platter, dessert platter. It's a little bit of something of everything.
I love it.
But it all together is really beautiful and tasty.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'm kind of a dessert board kind of guy.
I love this. I personally would want chocolate on mine, just saying.
Well,
whatever
drizzled in chocolate.
is.
Everything has to be drizzled in chocolate. I don't know why women
I'm a
are
layered girly.
Yes. Love chocolate. I love chocolate. So
it's fantastic. So kick us off. I want to understand a little bit about reimagining brands and a little bit, of your experience and how that took form and shape across all these different super, super impressive brands that you've worked alongside. When it comes to edible arrangements and reimagining gifting, I have to believe there's got to be quite a story on how you approach that, because it feels like a very traditional, kind of straightforward.
yeah.
A gift is a gift, right? But if you had to pick the quirkiest or most surprising gift you've ever sent or received that felt like brilliant marketing, what would you say?
Okay, Brittany, that was recently. A few months ago, agencies always send things to get your attention.
Yes.
And, you guys, I'm sure you guys have sent them or received them yourselves. I got sent to my office a big bouquet of chocolate dipped hot dogs.
What?
Okay.
I'm sorry.
And it was like a choco cycle or some Gen Z kind of slang.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it was really funny. And I had it on the office and they were frozen when they arrived. So, let's just say
I heard it all.
To the office.
This is hysterical.
Like, the visual picture is just not working in my head right now.
If you saw the visual, it'd even be more hilarious.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just going to leave it at that, Cindy.
That's hysterical. All right. I definitely wasn't expecting that.
Neither was I.
I bet, right? Did you eat it?
No, but some other people were daring each other to eat, and I think someone in the office did take a bite.
Okay.
This feels like an intern dare situation.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of encased meats, and then if you tell me you're going to dip it in chocolate and make me, it's still no.
It's a double no
still
for me
just
too.
a no.
Same. Yeah.
It's
a
like,
no for me,
ew,
dog.
this smells awful. Smell it. No. Tell us a little bit about when you first joined Edible. What was the one thing you couldn't wait to change?
Well, my philosophy is always inside out, like how's the brand, like looking internally first, but sometimes I can't help myself. The visual look and feel of the brand is always some area that I just like, God, I just am dying to get a hold of that. And fortunately, the founder, Tarek Fareed, and his daughter, who is now the CEO, Somia, they were very gracious in working with me and collaborating on really overhauling the whole visual identity system. And that was, he designed the basket, all those things were stuff that had roots all the way back to him, to Tarek. So it was very personal, but what was funny was we had a lot of really intense discussions about it all, but in the end, I think everyone was really happy. I learned some areas where I pushed hard and I didn't win. And I look back, I'm like, you know what? He was right. I'm glad we didn't do that. I'm glad we kept the basket. I actually want to remove that. But that was really fun. And it really sent a shockwave to the company and to the system that something's happening here. We're changing. Yeah. So to me, that's always been kind of the area I tend to gravitate towards, not because it's like the shiny, easy toy, because it's very difficult, especially in a franchise system. But it does send an emotional signal to everybody like, hey, this brand's changing.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of changing, so along with that, and Kevin, your background brings this to the table. What I'm imagining there was some big storytelling that was being considered or part of this whole reimagination of edible arrangements. And when you're working with the big brand storytelling component, and then you have the heavy logistics side of the business, let's say same day service, right? Yeah. How do you measure those two and or align them so that you don't have that heavy grind of logistics getting in the way of the magic of the storytelling you're about to embark on?
And Cindy, you tapped into a really important kind of lessons learned that I've learned over the years. As CMO, I've made mistakes, and no one talks about those. And I actually like to talk about them because they help people. Especially in a franchise system, Orange Theory, edible, no different. It's complicated because you're depending on hundreds and hundreds of small businesses to row with you, right? So there's a lot of dynamics with the operational side, but so I'm telling stories. I'm trying to keep in step where the consumer is going, especially the latest generation where everything is. We launched 1 hour delivery, third party, a lot of these things that we had never done before. We launched. But then there's the operational side to make sure that's happening flawlessly, because we are a high stakes business. You don't get, a gift to grandma on her birthday. That's going to upset people, and get it to them on time. So there's some hiccups there, but we iron those out over time. But sometimes, I'm like, here's what consumers want. We got to do it now. Operationally, it could be more complex to make sure that happens. So now I'm kind of like, I got to make sure I've got a really strong operations partner who really susses things out before and test and learn. But you have to test fast these days. You can't wait around. Yeah. So to our CEO, Somia's credit, she's like, look, we're launching this now. And I was ready to blink for 1 hour delivery, but she was right. We needed to test it. You just kind of have fail fast. So we didn't really fail that much, but to the system, it was a shock, like an hour. Are you kidding? It's like, of course we could do an hour. And we did.
That's crazy speed though. Yeah. That's like Jimmy John's speed. It's freaky fast.
Yeah. And there was some magic on the back end operationally. We figured out like white labeling some of our delivery services through third parties like Uber and and DoorDash, some of those subcontract and do it white label. So there was a way to augment the infrastructure to make sure that happened on time.
I love the idea that the operations and complexities you were able to tie into a bigger brand promise, which then immediately becomes part of your story.
Yep.
Right? It's like it all transitions. It reminds me, and I'm sure Cindy, you can throw back here, working for restaurant brands and the old front of the house, back of the house. Yeah. How do we make them work together adage? And as a CMO, I'm sure you've hit multiple, bumps and roadblocks trying to get the brand promise operationally in sync with where you're headed to. I was just looking, I know that you had some time with Orange Theory, which you built to a $1 billion company.
just that was a B, guys.
Yeah.
B.
Right.
And went through a pandemic and brought it back. Don't forget that fun part.
Yes.
That was super fun, let me tell you.
Right.
I had a ball.
Before eggs were like $85 too. So well played. If you go back to that, that time that you were with the brand there, did you find any playbooks that you learned from that you've sort of carried through into other circumstances that helped prepare you?
I think it was the first time I worked client side on a franchise brand. And my goal walking into it was to have the same principles from Coca-Cola and other great brands I've worked on, UPS, that didn't have that. But they had a version of it. We had distributors and bottlers. UPS had our drivers, and the system. So there was an analogy there, but it wasn't quite the same. So I really took the playbook like, hey, I want this brand to feel like just a brand consistent around the world. It doesn't feel like a franchise brand. It just feels like Orange Theory, and you're going to have an incredible experience and walk through those doors. So to me, that was my goal. And the CEO and my boss, Dave Long, one of the co-founders, I told him that. And that's why he called me a chief brand officer, not a chief marketing officer. Because he's like, everything speaks to how this brand is perceived. So I want you to think about the design, the music, everything. So not just the storytelling. So to me, that was really an inspiring outlook on my role, if not a little bit overwhelming at times.
Right.
But
That's a lot
but
of
I tried to
pressure.
bring those principles into a franchise system that typically franchise, you go into kind of franchise mode,
Yes.
and I didn't want to fall into that sand trap. I wanted the owners and the franchisees to not feel like owners and franchisees. I wanted them to feel like part of the story.
Love that. And that's not an easy ask.
No.
I feel like the franchising world can get, very difficult, very complex, very quickly. To your point, it's like it can get robotic because it kind of has to
It
be if
does.
everyone's reading from the same playbook. So I love that you came in with, this outlook of how to keep the operation once again, rolling and jiving while still forward looking, and to have an advocate also, calling you
So
the chief
important.
brand officer. That autonomy and freedom to be able to implement had to clear the way for a lot of other
Yeah, and I would tell us
activities.
any CEO, owner of a company, if you want to have a successful brand, you got to give your CMO autonomy and authority. Like
Mhm.
things are moving too fast.
Listen
Don't
up,
get
people.
caught, do
Yeah.
not get caught up in the
Tell me
sausage.
that.
Can you repeat that?
Yeah,
Do not
that.
get caught.
Can
Give
your CMO
them,
what?
him or her, the autonomy and the authority. It does not mean running wild with the keys to the brand and not talking to the executive team. But those two are so important. And then coupled, especially the franchise system, what was great about Orange Theory is I had a phenomenal operations team. Phenomenal. Paul Reuter, he was my partner in crime. He still is there. Wonderful man. But he's like, okay, got it, Kevin. Here's what you want to communicate this month. And I'm going to get the system excited about it. He gamified everything. He made it fun. We'd had bracket challenges between studios, who could execute the
Yes.
best. So to me, I think it's that autonomy, authority, and then operationally, you're supported because, I'm not an ops guy.
Right.
I know what I need from the ops people, but I can't
Sure.
be that person.
Yeah.
Well, we've talked about a lot of heritage brands, right? You've had some amazing experience, but with that can come the whole problem of them getting stuck like in their own greatest hits, things that they've done the same always and forever.
Yeah.
Happens a lot inside of franchise businesses as well. They just get stuck in doing the same thing.
Yeah.
If we're talking today about reimagination and brand reinvention, how do you start to work past that and help them still pay homage to the history and all of the loveliness that was created from the beginning, but then move them into something new?
Yeah, it's a great question, Cindy. And I think even most recently with Edible, it was going back to their brand promise, which is celebrating the moments that matter. And I like to look at that through the strategic lens of 2025 versus 1999 when they were founded. Like, what's changed since then? We know a lot of the human kind of the hierarchy of needs that hasn't changed. The human experience still long for connection and celebration and moments. But how do we do that today versus how we did that, 25 years ago? How do we update that? And how do we jettison the things that are really not supporting that? And then everyone listens to money. How can we be more profitable? Well, we might have to cut half our SKUs. They really don't even, and actually we did that at Edible and didn't even feel it. So I think the whole world is getting, my whole role has always been subtractive, subtract. So I'm always looking for ways to update and to keep those elements, but let's subtract the little barnacles that have existed and have been put on the brand over the years. Sprite's a great example. I worked on that years ago. We did a whole visual identity system makeover globally. And I worked with some brilliant designers. Our team at Coke, a lot of them were from Apple, just brilliant designers. But, there were so many barnacles that a brand manager put onto that brand over the years. Oh, we need a refreshment cue on the bottle. We need to have a splash over here to cue like water. And it was all like stupid. It looked really ugly. So
Tell us how you really feel.
yeah, it's just like, come on, like, did you put that in your house? So I always like to treat every brand like it's a piece of art. Like, I want to put that on my shelf at home. So it is a delicate balance, like respecting the heritage, but it's just like, especially today, I think consumers are looking for personalization and they're looking for speed and simplify. So those are the things I'm really focused on now.
Okay, so I'm just curious. I'm gonna like throw this out there.
Throw it out there,
What is
Cindy.
your opinion of what happened with Cracker Barrel? Like you talking like this now, and I'm just wondering where your head's at with that kind of, we'll just say situation that happened.
Situation. Well, let's just say this, Cindy. I mean, it's like a bingo card where we have to drink every time someone says Cracker Barrel. The whole world's talking about Cracker Barrel. So there's a skeptic in me. It's like, did they manufacture all this?
Okay, that's exactly what I was wondering if you were going to bring up.
Yeah.
Was this a big PR stunt?
I've been doing this long enough to think maybe it was, but if it wasn't, then They're very lucky because I think it's got everybody talking about it. But if you want to remove all that and just talk about the work that was put on the table, I think what they did was, look, 95% of our brains are emotion. We're feelers, right? We're not logistical, like rational thinkers. I mean, especially me, I think I'm 99% emotion. You know me, I'm a very heart on my sleeve kind of guy. But I think the general public responded the way they did because there's a feeling of coziness when you think of Cracker Barrel. I think of cozy. I think of simpler times. We all know nostalgia is hugely popular with Gen Z. And so you go and take a brand you want to recruit and make it feel like a clinical, sterile, which I'm all about, by the way. If I could live in a white house with white walls and white shelves, I would. But I think that brand, it didn't really fit. If you saw some of the redesign, they didn't really publicize the interior design as much as the basic logo. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah, a little bit of it.
It looks
so
more,
scary.
It's very sterile. So to me, I think they didn't really heed the emotional side and the attachment people had to that. I think you could have gone about it without being so radical. I've had my, like I said, at Edible, I had to pull back a little bit, and the founder was right. So I think in that regard, I think they were on the right track, but they went way overboard, and they spent a lot of money on it. Allegedly, it was like a $200 million project.
So interesting to see how brands have followed. It's like, I think about generationally, and Cracker Barrel being this example. You go to your grandma's house and there's tchotchkes in every room. It's like when I go home to visit my family, I'm like, okay, I have to make space for me to put my suitcase because there's stuff everywhere. You know what I mean? Like, no shade, mom, love you. But it follows the same path, I feel like, as what's happening with kind of like Boomer, Gen X. Millennials came in, they grabbed their gray paintbrush and rolled gray and white just over everything, and like simplicity, modernity. And now we're swinging back with Gen Z around this, to your point, like very throwback, nostalgic. They want details. They love thrifting.
Exactly.
We're getting back into, that down home sensation and feeling. It's like they gave a millennial, a paintbrush at Cracker Barrel, and Gen Z was like, not anymore.
Exactly. And what's funny, Brittany, is you have to really divorce your own personal taste and opinions when you're working in a brand. Do I look like the kind of guy who's like a country down home kind of guy? Yeehaw.
It's not giving that. No.
So I'm not, but if I worked on that, I would lean always further into that. You're working on brands and promoting the brand, not yourself, So completely. I think it's really, for some people, that can be a little difficult.
Mm-hmm. Your background, which I really appreciate, obviously having an agency, but a flip-flop from yours. I started on the brand side. Cindy started on the brand side. Yep. And you've got, a little bit of both experiences. I know that has to shape how you come at things. It must. I mean, I still think about all the annoying things that I had to deal with from agencies working on the brand side, and we try and navigate around those, right? So when you think about biggest mistake you've seen scrappy brands trying to take their marketing in-house and like produce things and come up with ideas, are there any takeaways that you've experienced now, having two sides of kind of the aisle here to reflect on, that you would
absolutely
say, look out for this?
Yeah, because I've worked now in 3 and helped build and completely built in-house agencies on the brand side. And then I worked on a very well-developed in-house agency at Coca-Cola, of course. But I've come to a very, very rigid opinion about this today. I think every company, every brand needs an agency of some sort. I remember my mentor in marketing for 25, I worked him in New York City. I started on the agency side up there on Mercedes-Benz, but he's been my mentor. He's actually coming to stay at our house this weekend.
How fun.
He lives in Spain now, but he said, Kevin, he was the head of marketing at Coke at the time. He said, look, agencies are so vital, because especially great agencies, because otherwise we're going to start navel gazing each other, and like we're going to shut off the outside world, and we're going to like start marketing all of our RTBs and get caught in that trap. So I really feel like that tier 1 work, like the corporate idea, the big idea, the organized idea around the brand idea, agencies are best at doing that. I think in-house agencies, depending on the size of the company, I think anything from $500 million in revenue under really going to need a lead agency. Unless you want to spend the money on in-house talent. It also depends on the diversity of your product offering, because if you hire a really fancy creative director, they're going to get bored very quickly. So it's kind of a balance, but I like to see it as tier 1 is really agency work. Tier 2 is pulling that work through in-house, social posts, other things, automation, email marketing. And tier 3 is kind of that nearshore stuff, where you're doing a million different versions and sizes and optimizations and getting it back into Meta or whatever platform you're running. That's how I kind of see it. And I think the mistake is trying to do it all and just being proud that, hey, we do everything in-house. I'm like, aren't we just here to make money? Who cares? Let me save you millions, but at the same time, make us billions, is how I see it. So I think don't save so much money and be proud or, be too arrogant to think you can do it all when really it's best to have a partner.
Yeah. I mean,
here.
As an agency,
repeat.
right?
Well, I know who my audience is right now. I'm actually working with an agency right now. I can't tell you, but I am working. I respect agencies deeply because I feel like they really play an important role. Their role has always been the same. It's just like we talked about earlier, the ways in are a little different and they keep changing. But I really think it's really important.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think the dangers of creating your own little echo chamber, and now more than ever, because you just take half a step to the left and you are on a landmine that you don't even know that you're on, and then you're canceled and forever goodbye. So having people outside of that bubble to help craft, the insights, the research, the strategy, even just mirroring it back that, yes, this is in fact a good idea outside of, the four walls of your brand.
Right.
So, good. I'm glad we're all agency people. I love this for us.
It was echo chamber. That's what my mentor told me. He's like, we become an echo chamber. It's exactly the word he used.
Yes. It's a good one.
Look at that.
Okay. I mean,
you just
don't call me Yoda for nothing. Just That's amazing. So we've got, we're getting down. Yeah. 3 minutes. So I want to make sure we hit like the hard hitting questions for you too. In your mind, what separates a brand people like from a brand people love? If you had to point to one secret ingredient, what would you say?
Yeah, this is good. We just mentioned Love Marks, the book, And I was teaching a class at Emory University last week, and I said that's my favorite book still. And the reason why is because there's a lot of mathematical and financial proof that brands that are loved and not just liked, perform way better than S&P 500 on average. But that aside, I think what makes people love brands is they get them. They get the consumer, and they look at consumers as people, not as consumers. And they make everything intuitive. And I think they're true to themselves and are authentic, especially today, and especially with Gen Z. Their BS meter is very finely tuned. So to me, I think brands that are loved are really just authentic, just like people want everyone else to be. And when you try and be something you're not, it's kind of cringe,
It is. It is. I feel like the discernment meter now versus, years ago is just such a higher caliber.
Isn't it? It's amazing. And I think Gen Z really has a lot to thank for that. And I love it. I think it's great. I've learned myself. I'm just going to be myself. I'm not going to pretend to be someone I'm not. I'm a super serious person about brands, but in practice, I'm a little bit more playful.
Yeah.
No one puts baby in the corner and shuts me up.
Exactly. Well, you said something earlier, and it sparked a thought that I just really loved and wanted to carry through here, because you mentioned, brand and visual brand being a piece of art you want to put on your shelf. And so for me, it's like the compare and contrast. We had a couple weeks back the Liquid Death creative VP on, and he said something.
Great brand.
Yes. Yeah. Amazing. Andy's so clever in the way he thinks about things. And instead of, like a brand pillar, they think about their brand as a spokesperson, like a movie character is actually how he started describing it, which I feel like with your description of, piece of art you want to put on a shelf and movie character that's like living and breathing, just the two dynamics here of how we are thinking about crafting a brand and the love you have for the brand goes so much deeper than we've ever thought about before. And so it's not an easy path to get us there. So I love this, authenticity message that has really pushed us into very unique storytelling.
I love how he mentioned like a character in a movie, because that's the analogy I always tell people when I try to describe what I do.
It's never enough time. keep going because I can't wait to hear this last
Yeah,
part.
I think I've really nailed it. Just personally, I feel like it. I explain to founders, CEOs, or business people, like, what do you do in marketing? Because it's so complicated, and people do understand the storytelling, context. And I tell them, like, look, like the film industry, I'm an executive producer. That's my role. I help accept the vision of the film. What's the story we're telling? Who we're going to get the actors? How we're going to produce it? And then you bring in experts to production. You bring in a director, but my job is to be the conductor of all that, the executive producer. And it really helps people understand and shape. And so like even an email coming in is a little piece of the story. It's a little, personal part of that. So I love how he uses that as a character in a film, because that's so spot on to kind of what we do here in marketing.
Completely. This is never enough time. We have easily 20 more questions, like locked and loaded. We so appreciate your time this morning.
Oh, this was so much fun.
Amazing, stories and experience you've brought to the table and been able to share with us. And I just thank you, and I hope you have an amazing day, and we can't wait to film next week.
Well, thanks, Brittany and Cindy. It was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Take care.
Bye.